Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our regular council meeting. At this moment, we would like to, at this time, I would like to draw attention to this coming Wednesday, February 24th. This is Pink Shirt Day. Pink Shirt Day brings awareness to anti-bullying in our society. Bullying continues to be a major problem in our everyday lives, and it needs to be discussed. It needs to be made aware of, and it needs to stop. I encourage everyone to wear pink on Wednesday to show your support in taking a stand against bullying. Everyone matters, and everyone deserves to be treated with kindness and respect. Be the one that takes that stand. Stand up against bullying. Councillor Gerber, would you do the land acknowledgement, please, sir?
Just give me a second, Your Worship. We have gathered in Wilmot Township on the traditional territory of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Mississauga peoples. We also want to acknowledge the importance of the Dish with One Spoon Covenant, a peace agreement made between Indigenous nations before the Europeans arrived. It characterizes our collective responsibility to each other and Mother Earth. We should take only what we need, leave enough for others, and keep the dish clean. By acknowledging this covenant and the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, we are reminded of our important connection to this land where we live, work, learn together as a community.
Thank you. Are there any additions to the agenda? Seeing none. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? Seeing none. So first item is the minutes of the previous meeting. And the recommendation that the minutes of the following meeting be adopted as presented. Council meeting February the 8th, 2021. Moved by Councillor Fisher, Councillor Fenning. Are there any comments, questions, omissions, corrections? Councillor Hallman.
Thank you. Through the mayor to the CAO. Making sure there we go. Just with the strategic plan, we identified that one of the biggest needs that the community is looking to have addressed moving forward is transparency, correct?
Yes, correct.
Yes, okay. So I just have some concerns that the last meeting's minutes don't fully reflect with such an important council meeting, the depth of the conversations that occurred. And I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that I was hoping that perhaps that could be addressed.
I'll follow it up with staff. Yes, please.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. There are no other questions or comments. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Next, we have some presentations of the municipal grants. Mr. Kelly, would you like to comment on the municipal grants?
Sure. I can just advise that the grants were approved as part of the 2021 municipal budget approved by council, and I believe we have a brief presentation that can be put up by our IT support to run through the presentation of those grants. So thank you. Would you like to go ahead and read off the grants?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, you want me to? Oh, sorry. I thought
Yeah.
you were going to do that. Okay.
Yeah, no, you go ahead.
Just 1 second. Okay, so just to start off, the 2021 Municipal Grants Program was approved by the Ad Hoc Budget Advisory Committee and incorporated within the overall municipal budget, which was approved at our last council meeting. This year's total allocation is just over $65,000, including a number of carryover initiatives from 2020 and an additional $5,000 allocation that we received through the Kitchener and Waterloo Community Foundation. It's my pleasure to announce the successful funding recipients at this time. Next slide. So first, we have the Wilmot Horticultural Society was funded to support the purchase of plant materials and their Junior Gardeners program. The Wilmot Agricultural Society was funded to help cover costs of the New Hamburg Fair. Interfaith Community Counseling to provide subsidies for low-income individuals and families for counseling services. Wilmot Family Resource Center to assist in maintaining existing levels of service and expansion of services to children and youth. As well, this year, additional funding was allocated to support operating costs for their new Indigenous worker. Community Care Concepts to maintain existing programs offered to seniors and adults with disabilities living in Wilmot Township. Waterloo Oxford District Secondary School to fund the Waterloo Oxford Citizenship Awards. School Safety Patrollers, annual contribution towards the recognition of school safety patrollers across the region of Waterloo. And Wilmot Seniors Woodworking and Craft Center to purchase and install a new dust collector to improve air quality for the shop users, as well as purchase a replacement scroll saw. Next slide, please. Program will also assist the New Hamburg Firebirds in maintaining a program of junior hockey excellence and offset the rising operational costs. The Wilmot Terry Fox Run to support marketing and promotion of the Wilmot Terry Fox Run and other related fundraising events throughout the year. The Nith Valley Eco Boosters to assist with costs to hold environmentally focused events. The New Hamburg Art Tour to assist in funding the annual New Hamburg Art Tour. The Wilmot Recreation and Cultural Financial Assistance Program. This is to replenish funds held in trust to assist families in need of support to register for community recreation and cultural programs. The New Hamburg Concert Band to repair and maintain musical equipment and purchase music and supplies. The Forest Glen Public School Council to assist in building a natural play area within the grounds of Forest Glen Public School. The William Scott Festival to assist with promotional and operating costs of the festival, and the Wilmot Heritage Fire Brigades to assist in promoting the Heritage Fire Brigade's 25-year celebration event. Next slide, please. So for these groups and all the dedicated volunteers throughout the township, we're truly grateful for your commitment to improving quality of life here in Wilmot. The funds will be distributed. We generally hand them out this evening at an in-person event, but those funds will be distributed via mail in the coming week. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. And we do have one delegation this evening in regards to the grants. And before commencing with hearing from delegations, I would like to remind all delegations of some guidelines for participation. Please leave your video camera turned off and your microphone audio muted until you are called upon to speak. Delegations will be allotted 10 minutes to speak and will be provided a 2-minute warning reminder when your 10 minutes is nearing completion. We also ask that you leave the meeting once your issue has been addressed. You are then welcome to watch the remainder of the meeting being webcast live via YouTube. If you conduct yourself in any of the following manners, it will result in an immediate muting and removal from the meeting, interrupting counselors, staff, or delegations, derogatory statements about counselor, staff, or others, hate speech, defamatory comments. So our registered delegation is Mr. Nigel Gordick. Welcome, Nigel.
I think this is the 5th year that the township has generously awarded us a grant to help us cover the costs of staging Wilmot Terry Fox Run fundraising events. And once again, I come before you this evening with the same heartfelt message. Thank you for leading by example and supporting the Wilmot Terry Fox Run in practical, meaningful ways. You are partners in our success. Last year's grant helped us adapt and host online fundraisers rather than the in-person events that we planned. Instead of paying for printing posters or renting venues, we invested in boosting social media posts so we could connect with more residents, and also upgrading online apps in order to live stream a summer concert, as well as our virtual opening ceremony on Run Day. Our community, as always, has been amazing with its incredible support. We held our first ever bottle drive on a hot summer's day, with all of our volunteers physically distancing and wearing masks. Most of the residents who helped us were first-time volunteers with the Wilmot Terry Fox Run. At the end of 2019, my co-organizer, Councillor Gordak, and I announced that we were setting a target of at least $40,000 for 2020 to coincide with the 40th anniversary of the Marathon of Hope. COVID put an end to that goal, and we simply tried to raise as much money as possible under the circumstances. We figured if we could raise half of our target, we would be happy. But this is Wilmot, and our community had other ideas. After all of our events last year, our fundraising total was $43,110, a new community record. That simply would not have been possible without the grants that the township invested in our activities. We thank you for your vote of confidence. Not all of our events last year were fundraisers. On July 20th, Wilmot residents gathered safely in Petersburg Park for the unveiling of a plaque to commemorate Terry Fox's Marathon of Hope. Terry had run near that location exactly 40 years previously. In July 2019, the township approved my proposal for this memorial, and I posted that decision on Facebook. In a comment, someone suggested also planting a tree in Terry's honor, and then a local resident contacted me privately to say that they would pay for it. Of course, COVID-19 disrupted our Marathon of Hope anniversary celebrations. However, 2021 has presented us with a new opportunity. Our community held its very first Terry Fox Run in 1996, 25 years ago. I believe this is worthy of celebration, and I think it's the perfect time to revisit the idea of planting a special tree to honor Canada's favorite son. As with the brass plaque last year, criteria were applied to determine a suitable location for the tree. First, we wanted it to be close to where Terry passed through the township in 1980. Second, the tree should be planted on municipally owned property. And third, this location should be safe and open to the public, so they can visit it easily. Following extensive research last year, when we attempted to trace the route of the Marathon of Hope in Wilmot, we determined that the ideal location would be at the entrance to Schmidt Woods Trail, near the Wilmot Recreation Complex. Our anonymous benefactor would still like to donate a tree, and Councillor Gordak and I will pay for a small plaque to go alongside it. This will feature a quote from Terry in a similar style to this design visual. The actual quote for this plaque hasn't been chosen yet, as we'll be holding an online poll so residents can pick their favorite from a shortlist. Our donor told us, my thought was it could be a white pine, which was indigenous to the township, largely clear-cut by settlers. It would promote diversity adjacent to the deciduous forest. After a discussion with Director of Parks and Recreation Services Sandy Jackson and Parks and Facilities Manager Jeff Dubrick, it was agreed that the tree will be planted close to the benches shown on the left of in this picture, thereby creating a visual balance with the trees on the opposite side of the trail's entrance. There is significant foot traffic, so placing a memorial there will ensure that it is seen by as many people as possible. We're planning an unveiling ceremony on Wednesday, September 1st, 2021, at the beginning of what is traditionally thought of as Terry Fox Month. That date is also the 41st anniversary of when Terry ended his run. Of course, the exact nature of this celebration will depend on the regulations that are in place several months from now, but we'll keep you posted. A huge thank you to Ms. Jackson and Mr. Dubrick for enthusiastically embracing this project. I'm particularly pleased about Mr. Dubrick's involvement. When Terry ran through Petersburg in 1980, 10-year-old Jeff was there near the Blue Moon, and he leaned out to high-five Terry as he went past. It was that same historic hand that Jeff used to attach the plaque to the rock in Petersburg Park, and it will be used again when this new memorial is put in place. When COVID is safely behind us, I hope to be able to shake that hand to thank Mr. Dubrick for all of his hard work and also for sharing his memories. Thank you.
Thank you, Nigel. And we certainly do appreciate all the hard work that you and your spouse put into the celebration of Terry and the fundraising. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Anyone have any comments or questions of Mr. Gordick? Unfortunately, we don't have the emoji that shows the hand clapping, so you have to do it literally,
Thank you.
folks. So there you
Thank
go.
you so much.
Well done, guys. Well done.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. So we're now into the consent agenda. We're now going into the consent agenda. If members of council have any questions and want to remove an item from the consent agenda, please indicate so now, as we will not take questions on consent items unless the items are requested to be removed from the regular agenda. And there are 3 items there. Anybody wish to have any of those 3 items removed? Seeing none. Recommendations that report numbers COR 2021-010, COR 2021-011, and COR 2021-12 be approved. That is moved by Councillor Fenning, Councillor Fisher. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Next item is from Development Services. And Mr. Okrafka, you will begin. And you're going to handle the next 2 together.
That's correct.
Both development projects together. Thank you.
That's correct. Thank you, Mayor Armstrong. There's 2 plans of subdivision that are before you tonight. If Carl could put up the graphic, that would be great. As Mayor Armstrong indicated, I'm going to generally describe the reports are very similar. The conditions modify differently between them, but the effect is the same. The Baiden View plan, which is under report 2021-04, and the New Hamburglers plan is under 2021-05. I would like to make a note just at the beginning that the draft bylaw attached to 2021-05 is incorrect, but the correct bylaw for that plan is attached to the council agenda for approval should council support the recommendation of staff. And further, condition 27 of report 2021-04 makes reference to condition 25, but should refer to condition 26. I would like to apologize for any confusion those typos may have caused in your review of the reports. I'm sure that each of you noticed those and we're going to raise it later, so I thought I'd just jump in and do that now. The subject lands were designated for industrial development in 1992 as part of implementing the results of the New Hamburg land use and servicing strategy of that year. So we're coming up to the almost 30th anniversary of these lands being identified as industrial use. Over that time, many changes have occurred, not the least of which is we generally refer to these as employment lands now rather than industrial. The Baiden View plan is comprised of about 42 hectares and has the potential to generate up to 1.5 million square feet of employment floor area. The New Hamburglers plan is comprised of approximately 10 hectares and will generate another 500,000 square feet of employment area. So combined, and we generally refer to them combined as the Wilmot employment lands, they have a net hectarage of 38 or approximately 94 acres and a potential for 2 million square feet of construction, give or take a little bit. And that 2 million would be dependent on building to the full 50% lot coverage that the zoning bylaw would allow. By way of comparison, 2 million square feet for our older residents, that's approximately 18 Stanley plants. And for our younger residents, that's approximately 18 Eurocan plants worth of employment, if you can use that as your visual guide to the end result here. Again, it won't all be in that size of building necessarily. There are a number of smaller lots, particularly in the New Hamburglar's plan to provide a range of opportunities for a range of businesses to choose New Hamburg as their home. In addition to providing for significant growth, obviously, of the places of employment, the plans incorporate a number of significant infrastructure pieces that I'll just briefly summarize. There'll be a trunk water main that provides a southerly connection between the Baiden and New Hamburg integrated water systems, which will provide water service and stability to the two communities. There's a significant stormwater management facility along Highway 7 and 8, which will effectively provide significant quality and quantity control for the large drainage shed north of Highway 7 and 8. There's a physical street network that finally, for many of us, connects New Hamburg physically to the Wilmot Recreation Complex, and it also includes an active transportation linkage as well, providing enhanced access for residents of New Hamburg to the recreational resources available at the complex. In addition, a future off-road trail linkage to the WRC, Schmidt Woods, Baden Trails, and effectively to Bechdale North to the high school, and the Bechdale South Trails, the Gingrich Trail, Sandhills, and even the Baden Hill are part of this plan as well through the generous donations of the forested portions of these properties by the developers. Council will recur that donation occurred some time ago, approximately 2 years ago. But we do want to acknowledge that the generosity of the developers was appreciated. The Planning Act allows us to require the conveyance of 2% of the lands for park purposes in an industrial or employment lands plan of subdivision. Baden View donated 10.8% of their property, and the New Hamburglers actually donated 32.4% of their land holding, which I think is fairly significant and should be acknowledged. Combined, that's an additional 27 acres of recreational lands that have been provided through the consideration of this plan. The plan also benefits from federal and provincial infrastructure funding through the Clean Water and Wastewater Fund and the Ontario Municipal Commuter Cycling Fund, and those are detailed within the report. But I did want to highlight that this project involves a lot of agencies at different levels of government to ensure the success of the development, and that is also appreciated. As the Baden Review reports indicate, 2 comments were received from the public during that formal public process in 2019 and the public meeting, and following the release of this report, which we did release to the public 2 weeks ago to ensure that they had ample time to review the recommendations. We received 3 written comments, which have been provided to you earlier today. I'll just briefly touch on those to ensure that council is aware that we do take these comments seriously. Even though the report and recommendation had been written, we have reached out to the residents providing those comments and tried to answer the questions where we were able to. The comments of Mr. and Mrs. Hofstetter and Sandy Scout relating to the proposed noise berm, the rear drainage, as well as the building setback have been reviewed by staff. And again, we did communicate to those residents. Specifically, this berm is going to be landscaped. The plan would be that there'll probably be trees. Maintenance would be tried to be designed so that it would be low maintenance, but at the same time, there have been concerns raised about the maintenance, and through the easement and through the township's clean yard bylaw, the township would be able to affect maintenance just as we would be on any property. Having said that, we envision this development to be a fairly prestigious employment lands development. Developer has a good track record, and we do not envision any issues down the road with the maintenance of this berm. And again, the detailed landscaping that will come through the detailed design phase will include sufficient foliage, if you will, to ensure that it is something that's not an eyesore to the residents. With respect to the drainage at the base of that berm, within the conditions of draft approval, there are conditions requiring that through the detailed engineering, the developer will need to install a swale system to ensure that the drainage coming off the rear of the lots fronting Maurice Street will end up in the pond. And should a swale system not be possible, it's preferred. We always prefer non-mechanical means, but catch basins and a storm sewer would be an alternative that could be considered should a swale not be practical for the full length. It is a significant length. So to ensure that the water gets where it belongs, that will be considered in the detailed design. Every attempt has been made to avoid the need for a noise well as part of the buffering. Certainly to the north around Captain McCallum, in that design, a noise well was incorporated. To use non-mechanical means in that location would have pretty much wiped out most of that development. It wouldn't, for the large part, exist or be practical, given the setbacks that were required. In this location, we're hopeful that the berm will work. Each, as you've seen within the report, a noise study is required for each building in stage 2 that would back or create noise towards the homes. And through those designs, the specific noise measures related to that business would be incorporated. Again, through the zoning, however, we have incorporated provisions to ensure that things like parking lots and driveways would be on the east side of the building, not between the buildings and the homes. Considering things like at this time of year, snow plows early in the morning, backing up with beepers that could cause disruption to the residents. Certainly the use of the berm and then the use of the buildings to further buffer the sound is the plan that we would prefer. Having said that, should a noise wall be required, depending on the nature of the future development, given the nature of the conditions of draft approval, that would have to come back to council for approval as part of the detailed design and would contain those detailed designs to ensure. So I just want to make sure that that's clear to both residents and council that a change that would require that would come back to council at a future date. The third letter we received that you also have a copy is from Mr. and Mrs. Davidson. They cited a number of concerns and questions. Staff I prepared a response that went to them this weekend, responding to many of their conditions or questions rather. They did provide a response to that with clarifying some of the questions, and I did speak with Mr. Davidson this afternoon for some period of time discussing the history of the subdivision and many of the issues that he had raised. One particular issue that he raised that others had not was the question of intersection improvements along Hamilton Road. Through the background studies to this report, traffic analysis was completed, and the results of that analysis were that the developers prior to stage 1 would be required to extend left turn lanes on Hamilton Road and Nafziger Road. No improvements at Booley Street were required or improvements along Hamilton Road at this time. And that's based on the traffic generation from phase 1. Hamilton Road can accommodate the traffic flows from stage 1. And the impacts really of stage 1 will be more felt at Nafziger Road, as you can see through the drawings that are up on the screen. Stage 1 is largely to the east of the properties. The bulk of the development in stage 2 would be more logically where traffic might be more logically generated towards Hamilton Road. But in stage 1, we envision primarily the traffic would be directed to Nafziger Road. We also see that there may be some reductions in the traffic on Hamilton Road as a result of this plan. Specifically, people like me who live in the northern part of the town would be inclined normally to come down Hamilton Road, take Highway 7 and 8 to the rec complex as a destination on a regular basis. I can assure you, in my case at least, that I would be using the new road that takes me right to the doorstep without having to navigate the intersection at Highway 7 and 8. So the reasons for that, prior to stage 2, the developer will have to update their traffic analysis, determine what, if any, impacts were felt as a result of phase 2 and what are anticipated based on stage 2. The other thing to take into account is that there are a number of other developments that will have possibly more significant impacts on the intersection, in particular at Booley Street, and that would be the proposed nursing home for Nithview Home. Certainly it's a welcome plan that we're hearing about, but as part of that, traffic analysis will again be calculated to determine the impact on that intersection, turning movements, and such. And so this is an ongoing process as developments are considered. Township staff continually review and re-review. It's not a fixed in time plan. It has to flow with the proposals that we receive. In summary, staff are confident that the proposed conditions of draft approval will result in a well-planned and successful development for the township in a location which is ideal and which will provide high-quality employment opportunities for residents for many years to come, and which really supports a complete community. Wilmot historically has had success with residential developments. It's been a long time since we've had any significant employment lands. In fact, the last significant employment land development was undertaken, I believe, by the Board of Trade in the 40s or 50s, which resulted in the construction of the Stanley plant, which at that time would have been the Han brass plant. Certainly a significant part of New Hamburg's history, the involvement of the Board of Trade there. And from a staff perspective, we truly see this as providing jobs for our children and our children's children heading into the future, to allow them not only to live and to play in Wilmot, but also to work in Wilmot. Staff are pleased to answer any questions that you might have. And I would like to point out that Mr. Chauvin, from the representative of the developers, is also on the call so that he can answer any questions that you might have.
Yeah, we have a delegation, and I think we'll hear from the delegation first before we take any comments or questions, so that we can hear from everybody. So, and just a reminder to the delegation of the information that was read earlier about behavior and everything as a delegation. So the delegation is Mr. Robert Sampson. If you are ready, sir.
Hello.
Hello, Rob. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you for having me. I appreciate this. I don't have a camera on. Is that a problem, or is there an issue, or okay?
No.
There's 1 second here. I have my only concern with this. Now, I live at 76 Captain McCallum Drive, so the odds of this happening without hearing from me is unlikely, because my house backs right on to all of this. So very much so, you were probably going to hear from me at some point in time. My biggest concern, or my biggest question, is that there's I think there was somebody who mentioned this traffic on stage 2 or traffic on Hamilton Road, and they brought up a concern, but the concern was only addressed on the intersection going onto the highway. Myself, along with many other families here that live in Captain McCallum, everybody is probably well aware that there's many young families and families with children who frequently battle very much so to cross Hamilton Road to get to the parks and to get to the fairgrounds and things like that, to get downtown and to all those things that we enjoy as being in New Hamburg. And a lot of our concerns is that right now we're having to race across the road, clutching our kids, hoping that somebody sees us and not get hit by a car. And thankfully, a lot of people do stop, but some larger traffic, such as transport trucks, don't stop at all. And we've all talked about there being something to address this. And I've looked over the plans, and it doesn't sound like there's a plan to address the traffic going across Hamilton Road that's not either at the highway or all the way at the Waterloo Road. So that's quite a large stretch. In addition, there's no sidewalks on this side of the road as well. So the only opportunity we have to go up and down Hamilton Road is to run across the road. And it's extremely unsafe. And my fear is that this increased traffic, especially with the new retirement home, is going to have more traffic that's going to increase the risk to the families and trying to utilize some of the services in downtown and the area. So that's my biggest concern. My second concern is that the berm height that was mentioned by the Director of Development, I didn't see too much information on the berm height. Is it going to be a berm? Is it going to be a wall? Is it going to be a combination of both? Are they going to continue the berm that looks like it's further down the road from us? Are they going to continue all the way down? And so that's a big concern. As everybody knows, that our houses are on hills, and our hills, and we're already having to sort of battle drainage issues. And even my house and many other houses have already had to consider redoing Retaining walls, two of our neighbors have already done retaining walls to a significant expense. My house is one of the larger houses, and we're seeing significant cracks already in the back of our house. So our fear is that much more disruption of the soil behind us is going to cause drainage to increase these cracks and have a larger issue. So those are my three concerns that I have, given where I live. And I'm hoping that these can get noted and addressed at some point in time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob. And I'm sure the consultant and Mr. Okrafka have been taking copious notes of your concerns, and will address them with you at the first opportunity that they can.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, comments or questions? We'll start with Councillor Gordick.
Deputy Mayor Armstrong to the Director of Development Services. Mr. Krafka, just curious, Mr. Sampson had raised one of the things I was going to with regards to the sidewalk on Hamilton because because of the increased traffic and just having people safely on that side. It's a very large development there with Morris and Captain McCallum. And further to that, do we have any sort of, as a bit of an aside, because of the traffic, do we have any say in the directional direction of our roads? So for example, if we wanted to make the road allowance road that leads into the Pastel development, that's what I'm calling it just for lack of better description, but could we make part of that one way so that trucks, especially because there's such a large amount of transport trucks that come in, can we make all of the trucks going into the Pastel development going in, but then have to leave so that there's not two-way traffic? Would that be something to alleviate some of the traffic concerns going forward?
Mr. Okrafka?
Through you, anything's possible. I think it would require some study. I don't know that is a reasonable solution, given that Hamilton Road is a collector. It's designed. We rebuilt it, I don't know, 10 years ago, specifically to be able to accommodate the type of traffic that would be generated from industrial uses. That's its design. It's one of our wider roads. In terms of sidewalks, the sidewalk from Captain McCallum at the intersection of Captain McCallum and Hamilton Road, the sidewalk will be extended north as part of the detailed design. Plans will be put in place to connect that to the sidewalk heading to the WRC. Certainly the crossing at Booley Street and Hamilton Road can be looked at, as opposed to promoting mid-block crossings from the Captain McCallum straight across. But that would be Public Works Department, Mr. Mullenhouse. Don't want to put him on the spot, but in general, those are the kind of things that are reviewed regularly. And so certainly I think both of us have noted the comments, and that can flow into discussions through the detailed design process. But as I indicated earlier, the NIFU plan is going to generate significant traffic to that intersection, and reasonably those kind of matters will be addressed as part of that. The truck traffic that you raised, certainly there will be truck traffic from the development, but again, in stage one, which is largely to the east of the property, we would envision the majority of that traffic heading to Nafziger Road to head all the way up to Hamilton, down, and then back across, pretty much past where you just came from, heading to Kitchener or to Stratford. Really would generally trucks try to minimize their distance between 2 points. So I would think that again, stage one is not necessarily going to generate significant volumes of traffic. And I think that's evidenced by the minimal works that are required from that traffic study in terms of extending the left turn lanes. They're very short distances. I think 3 to 5 cars, 5 cars at Nafziger, 3 at Hamilton Road. I think it's not a significant input, but certainly we've heard the concerns that Mr. Sampson raised in that regard, and we'll discuss them further.
A follow-up, if I may.
Yes.
With regards to the sidewalks, I noticed in there that the sidewalks are to be developed according to township requirements. I just wanted to clarify, does that also take into account GRAC requirements? because it's industrial, is there any distinction with what types of sidewalks go in an industrial area versus residential public sort of walking? Just to clarify that we would meet accessibility because it is industrial.
I'll let Mr. Mullenhouse answer that if he wants to. There are two sidewalks. There is a traditional sidewalk on the south, but the multi-use trail on the north would be wider and an alternative surface as well.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Armstrong. In terms of the sidewalk and current standard of sidewalk, accessibility current standards would be about 1.5 meters width. And looking at multi-use trail, I believe we were talking about 3-meter width.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Fisher.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Armstrong. It's great that we've had a lot of people working together to make this happen. I know we've had the extensions from the upper tier governments that have really helped, and the cooperation from the landowners. And it really is an exciting time for Wilmot Township. Not only the industrial lands moving forward, but the trail linkage. I think that's very important. And I think it was amazing that the developers have donated the lands conveyed to the township. I really, really appreciate that. I think it just goes to the saying that Mr. Okrafka said, live, work, and play. It's kind of lining a lot of stuff up there. So that's really good. The one question I had that I don't know if you can share to the viewers here tonight, timeframes of certain things that are happening. And also, is there any interest from companies? It might be a little premature to say if there is or not, but I'm just curious if there's interest.
As to timeframes, the next step, subject to council endorsing the recommendation and the bylaws, they would be forwarded to the Region of Waterloo. The bylaws would be approved by council, but the draft approval comes from the Region of Waterloo. Regional staff have been working with us and will expedite that approval in a timely fashion. We're talking weeks, not months, not years, possibly days. If they're listening, that would be great, subject to council approval. And just while I say that, Councillor Fisher mentioned an important thing, and I neglected to, I had planned to and neglected to emphasize the teamwork that really has brought us to this point. Multiple departments, from corporate services relative to grant applications and helping to fine tune those numbers. Mr. Mullenhouse's group in Public Works in terms of reviewing the concepts, the designs, Ms. Jackson's group, Parks and Recreation in terms of the trails plans and linking these developments. It really has been a staff level team approach as well. And certainly that's appreciated by Andrew and myself from Development Services. And again, moving forward, it'll be more of a teamwork. We'll add in the building guys with the inspections so yeah, I do appreciate that. The timeframes, again, once it's draft approved, is really in the developer's hands. The next step would be, and I think they're already working on the very detailed designs, stormwater, as you're aware through the reports they've applied for and previously dealt with at council, the application for a municipal drain to help facilitate that construction of that significant feature. The detailed engineering drawings would be submitted to the township for approval and also to the region for approval, GRSA for approval, and MTO would also review them. At such time as we're happy and the designs meet the minimum specifications of the township, we would prepare a subdivision agreement, and that agreement then would be registered on title, and that would set out the rules and regulations by which they can register. So the timing of actual construction, there certainly is potential that it could happen in this calendar year, the physical construction of the roads and facilities, but I can't really guarantee that to you. Your third question, I believe, if I have the numbers right, related to interest. We've had interest in these lands for the 26 years I've been working at the Township of Wilmot. It's only heightened by this, and we would expect that the number of inquiries we have sent to the developer over the last number of years will continue to increase. And ultimately, I don't think that the development, once it's built, will have any trouble finding purchasers for these lands, and developments will flow from that.
Thank you. Councillor Hallman.
Thank you, through the mayor. I just wanted to comment that this is really exciting to see this. We're at this step. Fully support this. It's really exciting to see the opportunity for our community to avoid the bedroom community scenario and have these opportunities of further employment coming here. I shared with someone earlier today that my grandparents came to Canada from Italy and were working at Stanley, and that afforded them the opportunity to raise a large family, and all of us attending post-secondary school and have the opportunities that we have today. So these jobs in this community mean everything to future generations, and I'm thrilled to see this and the collaboration that's existed amongst all the staff, and some who are no longer employed with the township any longer have retired, but I'm sure they're just as excited to see the torches that they passed on to the staff in their seats today. And same with council. It's amazing to reflect upon the previous councillors who passed those torches to the ones in these seats today, and see this happening. So I fully support this.
Thank you. Councillor Fenning.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Armstrong. I think this is a great opportunity for our community. Echoing most, what most everyone else has said here. It's really important to have opportunities for employment in our community in order to maintain a thriving town and a thriving community around Wilmot Township. So I know there are a lot of challenges yet to be worked out, but and residents' concerns have perhaps not fully been addressed yet. But I believe that through the rest of the details in the process, as we move forward, we will find reasonable solutions that will make this truly a good opportunity for everybody, without negatively impacting the adjacent neighbors. So I'm very pleased, and I will echo also the thanks for the donation to the trails. And as it's no secret to anyone, I'm very passionate about the linkages for active transportation and trails. So I'm very pleased that this will be moving forward soon.
Thank you. Yeah, it has been a long process. It's something that's been going on for a long time, and I'm so happy to see it finally come to fruition, because we have had a need for this, and the region is needed. It's in need of large land for industrial or employment for a long time, and to get this, it'll be one of, if not the largest, one of the largest employment lots in the region. So there'll definitely be, I mean, it's an ideal location. You've got 7 and 8 on one side and the railway on the other, so it is very desirable. So, and yes, we've needed employment opportunities for our residents for a long time, so it makes it that much more for us to continue to our growth as a healthy community. So thank you all, everybody, for their hard work to get to this part. Exactly. Okay, so there are no further questions. So there are 2 recommendations, and we'll take them each separately. The first one will be for the Baiden View developments, and it's rather lengthy, and I won't read it, or else we'll be here until tomorrow morning sometime finishing up reading. So we will, you've got the recommendations before you. So the first one is the development of Baiden View developments, and that is moved by Councillor Fisher and Councillor Fenning. All in favor? That is carried. And the second is for New Hamburglers Inc. And that is moved by Councillor Gerber and Councillor Gordick. All in favor? That is carried. Well done, team. Thank you very much for all that hard work. So next item is the updated fire department plan. So that will be Chief Leeson.
Through you, Mayor Armstrong, to council. Tonight, I'd like to bring forward the proposed establishing and regulating bylaw for the levels of service for the township as part of the 2020 Fire Master Plan recommendation. This closes that loop then back to that plan. And I'm here to answer any questions that council may have regarding this document.
Thank you, Chief. Questions or comments? Councillor Hallman.
Thank you. Through the mayor, I just have a question regarding the ongoing training that fire services is working with the community. I'm hoping that you can just maybe summarize what's been going on with that in a little more detail. And also just wanted to touch on the opportunity for what has fire services been doing for education with youth in our community, and also regarding with the home escape planning. I just found that kind of interesting specifically, and perhaps there was opportunity to further engage the community on that aspect for encouraging that. Just didn't know what you had planned with your department.
Through you, Mayor Armstrong. Well, backing up to the beginning of 2020, COVID has really put a real damper on our public engagement opportunities, mostly the schools. We certainly do utilize the school systems significantly when it comes to providing fire safety messaging. Unfortunately, as we all know, we're unable to attend the schools at this point in time. And so therefore, most of our public education has been moved to the online or to the social media platforms. So with the inclusion of a Facebook page, we utilize that through our ILS department through communications. We use Twitter. Our FPO Michalco is working with one of our firefighters, happens to be an online content video guru. So we utilize their skills to put together some really neat videos. You've seen a few of them. They did an 11-minute public education video for the Family Day event. I'm not sure if council had an opportunity to see that, but that was some of their handiwork, and they're getting better at it, and they're working through the content, and we have our green light sign project coming up too. There's multiple videos building up to that. So those are the venues right now while we're in this COVID environment. These are the opportunities we're using. We're constantly looking at different items. The OFMEM, the Fire Marshal's Office, produces a lot of canned messaging. You'll see that used in a lot of cases too, and then it's retweeted and through the various fire services and agencies. Trust that answers your question, Councillor Holman.
Did you have anything further, Councillor Holman? No. Okay, Councillor Fenning.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Armstrong. Chief, I apologize. I don't have a lot of questions. My apologies, because it's clear that a lot of work has gone into this, and I enjoyed reading it. And you've answered, you've laid everything out really well. So I don't have questions of it, but I want to thank you, because it's clear that you and our fire service are serving our community really well. So thank you, and please pass thanks to all of the members of the team.
Thank you, Councillor Fanning. And I see no more questions. So I too want to thank you, Chief, and everyone involved in organizing the bylaw and all the hard work that's gone into the plan from last year and to this bylaw. So I thank you very much for your hard work and being so thorough. Okay, so there is a recommendation that council approves the updated fire department establishing and regulating bylaw 2021-10, being a bylaw to establish and regulate a fire department. That is moved by Councillor Hallman, Councillor Gordick. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. So there's no correspondence. So next item is the bylaws. Recommendation that bylaw numbers 2021-08, 2021-09, and 2021-10 be introduced, read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed in open council. And that is moved by Councillor Gordick and Councillor Fanning. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Next is the bylaw, that bylaw number 2020-46 be read a third time and finally passed in open council. That is moved by Councillor Fanning, seconded by Councillor Gordick. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Are there any notices of motion? Seeing none. Announcements. Councillor Gordick.
Mayor Armstrong, I just have two. First of all, today is National Human Trafficking Awareness Day. Girls as young as 12 are deceived or tricked into online sexual exploitation and sex trafficking in Waterloo Region. Last year, Waterloo Region Police investigated 75 cases of human sex trafficking, an increase since 2017. Most cases are never reported to the police. Awareness of the problem is the first step towards action. There are online events from February the 22nd to February 28th, including a reading of the play Chelsea Story, which is based on a true story. It centers on the diary of a 15-year-old girl who is targeted to be groomed and trafficked by a man posing as a boyfriend. The play was written for people as young as 12 to understand what trafficking is about and the ways in which those who are vulnerable, particularly girls and young women, tend to be targeted and groomed. Waterloo Region has one of the highest percentages of sex trafficking victims in the country. Moreover, surprisingly, most sex trafficking is domestic. Visit preventingcrime.ca for details. So on that, I just want to do a little bit more of a happier note and announcement. I'd like to congratulate Fisher's Esso, in particular Mr. Al Fisher, and previously a co-owner with his brother Brian, on the 60th anniversary of their business in St. Agatha. They originally started in 1961, so this year will be their 60th anniversary. So congratulations to the Fisher family and Fisher's Esso. Thank you.
Thank you. Good news one. Councillor Hallman.
Thank you. Through the mayor. Just two announcements. Tomorrow is Canadian Egg Day. So make sure you give a shout out to your local farmers and celebrate the hard work they do to keep food on your table all year long. And the hashtag that the organization is using is hashtag CANAG Day. So make sure you follow along on Twitter tomorrow or your preferred social media and share your celebrations of the everything agriculture. And as the mayor had mentioned at the beginning of this meeting, this Wednesday is Pink Shirt Day, also known as Anti-Bullying Day. This event started because an individual who was in the minority was being bullied and harassed because of it. Then two allies, David Shepard and Travis Price of Berwick, Nova Scotia, organized and distributed 50 pink shirts to peers at a local school after they witnessed Chuck McNeil was being bullied and harassed for wearing his pink shirt. I hope this event encourages deep reflection on other ways we can support minorities in our community who are being bullied and harassed, and support them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hallman. And we at Regional Council have new masks, and the masks read, "Lift each other up, Pink Shirt Day." So everybody's getting involved, and you're right, it's extremely important to put an end to the bullying. Okay, thank you. There are no more announcements. Next is the confirmatory bylaw. Recommendation that bylaw number 2021-12 to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held on February 22nd, 2021 be introduced, read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed in open council. That is moved by Councillor Fisher, Councillor Fenning. All in favor? That is carried. Now, following recommendation is that we do now adjourn to meet again at the call of the mayor. And that is moved by Councillor Gordick, Councillor Gerber. All in favor? Oh, everybody hesitated to put their hands up, I could tell. Anyway, thank you. That is carried, and that's it for this evening. So thank you everyone for tuning in and for sitting in, and have a good evening.